Welcome to TOMGIRL, where we talk all things sports, entertainment, fashion, and adventure. We have an incredibly inspiring guest for you today. As an athlete, she was a Division I two-sport athlete and a national champion. As a coach, she has won 9 straight state championship volleyball titles. Yes, 9 straight. She's the first person to win both Nebraska Athlete of the Year and Coach of the Year. In 2017, she was inducted into the Nebraska Athletic Hall of Fame. Now, she also brings her knowledge and personality to the pro volleyball court as a color analyst for the Omaha Supernovas. Please welcome to the show, Renee Saunders. Hi, Renee.
Wow, thanks for having me. It's been awesome reconnecting with you actually after 25 years, finally reunited.
It's
via,
crazy.
yeah,
I know.
it's pretty awesome, but thanks for the awesome intro. It's kind of humbling to hear all that.
Like you said, so it has been 25 years almost, which I can't believe since we've been at college together and we're teammates together. But yeah, like I was telling you, researching this, like saw a bunch of things you were doing on Instagram and I'm like, yeah, she's so awesome. I'm so happy for her. But then once I really started diving in, I didn't realize even all the rest of the accolades you've got. So I mean, just first of all, I'm just so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. I mean, you're an amazing teammate and just an awesome person back in college. So it does not surprise me that you have gone on to do all these incredible things.
Well, thank you. And right back at you, actually. You're probably one of my favorite teammates, one of the hardest workers I ever played with, though kind of kept me in check a little bit, make sure I wasn't slacking off ever. But yeah, it's fun seeing your adventures too and things that you're doing now. And it's exciting reconnecting with people after a long time. And we've come to whole different places in our life. And it's just fun. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is fun. Well, let's talk about, because also, so on the team, we were one of the few, the girls actually from Nebraska on the team. So let's go back and dive in and kind of talk about your childhood and your athletic experience growing up in Nebraska playing sports.
Oh man, it started at a young age. I'm pretty sure my parents put me in gymnastics at like the age of 4 and then progressed to like figure skating. And then I did archery. And then at the age of 9, I played baseball for like 3 years. And then I played softball for like 3 years. And then I got into volleyball and basketball and track and field. And literally, like I tell people all the time that I am who I am because of all the sports that I've done. And it's been always been a really big part of my life. And so it was pretty natural for me to go from childhood athlete to high school athlete to college athlete to now coach. And so it was a nice little progression. And then, like you mentioned, obviously the color analyst is a whole different element we can talk about later, but it's been super fun to like sit and see things from a different perspective on the media side. So yeah, it's been a fun ride. Luckily, God gifted me with pretty good athletic genes that I was able to even do what I did and participate in all the sports that I did. But yeah, now I'm old and can't do half the crap that I would love to be able to do like I could do 20 years ago. But as a coach, I have great athletes that work really hard. And if I need something shown, they can usually do it. I don't have to do a lot of that anymore.
And how do you feel about, back in Nebraska, there were all those opportunities. Like you had all those choices growing up and things that you were able to do.
I mean, it was awesome. I mean, there's 2 parts, right? It was number 1 that there were so many things to do in Nebraska that involved athletics, but number 2 that my parents could get me to them, that could pay for them. So I was blessed with a lot of great opportunities growing up, and I wouldn't change them for the world. I mean, I know your podcast is TOMGIRL, but I'm a total tomboy. Like I love playing football in the yard with the boys when I was younger. Like that wasn't even the organized stuff. I really like the unorganized neighborhood play. If it was a baseball day, we're in the church parking lot. If it was a football day, we're in my parents' yard, and we tackled. I'm pretty sure I still have scars on my body from the chain link fence, but it is one of those things where I was blessed with, the ability to do it. And my parents had the resources to help me live out my dreams. And so it was a good fit.
And then you became one of the top players in both basketball and volleyball for the state of Nebraska. What was that kind of like being one of the elite high school athletes?
I wish I knew then what I knew now. And I feel like I try to instill that, what's the word? Like wisdom into my players, right? Because I wish I could go back and know how important nutrition and taking care of your body and like ice baths and all those things are, because I think that I would have had a longer, less injury prone career. But also like knowing what it's like to be a good teammate. Like sometimes, feeling like I had to do everything, like they always say the crown is heavy, when you wear it. And so I don't think mentally I did a very good job with the expectations that I had. I was a great athlete. I could play both sports at a very high level. I think I was a top 50 recruit in both sports by about every college in the country at the Division I level, which was awesome. And it's humbling, right? Like, holy crap, like Duke and North Carolina and UCLA and, Florida and Nebraska and Colorado and all these big schools were recruiting me, and it came down, it was Clemson, Penn State, Illinois, and Nebraska. And they all were going to let me play two sports. But at the high school level, my senior year, I really think I had a dip in my performance because I don't think I did a great job of playing for others instead of thinking I had to do everything for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now that I'm older and I'm like, I have senior classes that come through, that's my big thing with them. Cause I feel like you become a senior at your last chance and you feel like you're carrying the burdens. Like my kids are carrying the 9 straight championships and they don't want to break it. Right. Well, you're not going to break it unless you're only thinking about winning it. Right. So then it becomes, okay, well, how can I gather my teammates and get us all going in the same direction instead of thinking I have to do everything. So it is, I wish I knew that then. I think I would have approached volleyball and basketball a little bit different. But I did feel like I had to do more. And really what happened is I ended up doing less. So I had a little bit of a dip going into my college career. But again, thank God I did because now I understand that, right?
Yeah.
And so I can then, hopefully impart some wisdom into my players.
Yeah. Do you talk to your players about, I mean, so you did both sports, then chose Nebraska. Well, first let's go back. So what made you choose Nebraska?
Oh, it was so hard. Like there were so many great things about Penn State, so many great things about Illinois, so many great things about Clemson. And I think being the hometown girl, my family being able to watch me play, the opportunity to compete for a national championship, the players that I knew there, it was probably a mix of comfort and excitement and, being a small fish in a big pond. Like I wasn't going to be the top dog at Nebraska. I don't know if I would have been the top dog at Penn State or Illinois. I love the Clemson staff. That was probably the hardest decision was between, it really came down to Clemson and Nebraska. And when I, went through and I remember laying in my bedroom, like flipping a coin, trying to think of what I wanted to do, but really in my heart, I wanted to stay home. And so it's funny, I've literally been playing or coaching volleyball in this state for almost 35 years now. And so I feel like I've seen it evolve from what it was when I started, which was totally different than what it is now.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a product of Nebraska volleyball and I love every minute of it. I don't regret my choices. It's been definitely a great experience from start to finish.
Yeah. And you were able to bring home that national championship title.
As
How
a
was
little
that?
freshman,
Yeah.
a little role player, I didn't play a whole lot, got in a couple times, but we had a great senior leadership class with Billy Winsett, CJ, Christy Johnson Lynch, and then Ellie Weston. And that group, and then our, Kate Cernich and Maria Hedbeck. And we just had an awesome team, and I remember us freshmen, like any other, we were all top dogs coming out of high school. And of course we wanted to play more, but we kind of made it our mission that we just wanted to beat the starters every practice. And the coolest part about it is we get to the very end, we win the national championship. And then at the banquet, I think CJ was talking and said that, we might have been number one, but our B squad was 1B because of the fact that we beat them and helped them get better. And so that's the other thing I take with my kids too, is I think great teams have great benches.
Yeah.
Championship teams definitely have great benches.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I like seeing those bench people get some credit sometime, right?
I mean, and it's funny because like I'll tell people all the time that I wasn't like I came out of high school like top 50 recruit in two sports, super good. And I was an average college athlete. I was injured. My body kind of started falling apart when I got to college. And I feel like it's still falling apart. But As I get older, I feel like things are starting to not work like they used to work and things like that. But I think that's also just the wear and tear from lots of years of athletics. But I really think that the fact that I wasn't a star the whole time helped me even more to get to where I am now, because I saw everything from a different angle. I played every single position in both sports. I set some, I played DS. We didn't have a libero back then. I played outside hitter. I played middle blocker. I played on the opposite, and I love that because I love blocking the outside hitters. And then in basketball, I played some post, but I also broke the press, and I was a shooting guard, and I was a power forward. Like, I think I played everything but point guard, and I'm glad I didn't, because you would have picked my pocket every single time. You would have been shooting layups if I was the point guard. So,
Oh.
but I loved shooting. I loved rebounding. But it was good for me to play all those different positions in volleyball and basketball. And then actually being injured was kind of a blessing in disguise as well, because then I got to hear more from the coach's side, right? Because I was on the sidelines and I could see practice plans and see how things were developing and why they were doing certain things. And I think since a young age, I've kind of had a coaching mind, but I think the injuries allowed me to learn from the best of the best, because Coach Pettit was my volleyball coach, and then Coach Beck and Coach Sanderford were our basketball coaches. And I feel like I learned a ton about team management and values and all those fun stuff that I use to this day.
Yeah, all that versatility in your experience now. I can totally see how you're putting that to use in coaching. When did you know, right when you got out of done playing college basketball and volleyball, that you were going to go straight into coaching?
Yeah, I think I played. So my career is weird. So I came into Nebraska, and my first year I only played volleyball, and then I did 2 years of both, and then I quit volleyball. And then I did basketball only that fourth year. And towards the end of it, I re-broke my foot. And then I took a medical hardship for my fifth year. So again, I literally say I was like a dud when I got to college. Like, I had this outstanding high school career, and then it, kind of just
First,
laid
not a dud. Don't say you were dud. You were.
no, but
I know what you're
but
saying.
in a way, right? Like, I had All-American Olympic dreams coming out of high school, and whatever, life does what life does. And I don't regret a bit of it, but, being injured a lot, not finishing all 4 years, won a national championship, went to another Final Four. And then my third year, we lost to Long Beach in the pyramid and didn't make it to the Final Four. And then the next year, my class made it to another Final Four. So they made it to 3 of 4 Final Fours, which I think is phenomenal at any level, to make it that far, but to do it, 3 out of 4 years. And I think we were one of the only classes. And then more recently, I can't remember, I want to say Michaela Fecky, her class, I think they might have made it all 4 years to the Final Four, but it doesn't happen very often, is what I'm trying to say. And then the basketball side of it, like, we made it to the NCAA tournament, all those things. But after I broke my foot the second time, I got into coaching volleyball. As soon as I was done playing volleyball, I got into coaching volleyball. I was with Myron Olerking at Lincoln East, and he was a legendary, like, Nebraska Hall of Fame coach, kind of grandpa vibes, but so knowledgeable and so caring and so, like, just a great, great guy. The perfect person for me to be a varsity assistant to really see if that was what I wanted to do. And the more I did it, the more I fell in love with it. And then I became a teacher, and the progression was natural. And I graduated, and I think I graduated in 2000. And then I technically got my teaching certificate later because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And here I am. I just finished year 22 of teaching and coaching.
Woo-hoo.
So
that's awesome.
It's been a fun ride.
Yeah. And your girls are so lucky to have, somebody like you, and with your drive and ambition. That's incredible. Let's talk about, go ahead.
Some days they might not be, but I hope most days that they enjoy my passion for what we do. Because I'm a pretty optimistic, all-in, passionate person. And I think I've always been that. And I think that's probably what my biggest attribute is as a coach, is that passion and drive that I have.
And you've won 9 straight state championships. I mean, that's incredible. Tell me how, like, what are your philosophies, how you're making this happen?
1 year at a time. Like, we don't talk. I mean, yes, we talk about the pink elephant in the middle of the room. And like this year, every year it's been one of those things where we're just like in 2015, we were just trying to win the school's first state championship. They'd never won one. I came in 2011, I think is my first year, the 11-12 school year. And, we made it to state. My second year, we did not make it to state. I think I failed as a coach. I overcoached them. I learned a lot from that year. And then the next year we lost in the semis, and then we lost in the finals, and then we've won it every single year since. And literally it was just all we wanted to do was win that first one for the school, right? And I told, like, my goal for Skutt Catholic was when I came in is we wanted to be the best team in Class B, and then it was like, well, let's try to be the best team in the state regardless of class. And there've been some years that we finished number one in all class. There've been one year we finished number two in the nation, right? It's just, I think we finished top 50 in the nation multiple times, but that's not the goal. Like, we're not like so focused. Like this year, we're trying to win number 10, and we're not focused on winning. We're focused on right now getting stronger, faster, and better shape. But like we do things in number 10, right? So we might do 10, like we just did 10 sprints, like 50-yard sprints on the football field or whatever. So we'll do a lot of things where 10 is the number. And they're like, and the kids make jokes about it. They're like, oh, why'd you choose 10, Sond? They call me Sond. And I'm like, I don't know. It just sounded good. And then they all like laugh and like point. And so we kind of keep it pretty lighthearted. And then my goal, like I told you before we started this podcast, is I feel like I'm a product of my failures. And so my goal for my teams each year is to make sure we are failing along the way, but then picking each other up and learning from it. Because you're not going to achieve your goals if you continue doing things the same way and not changing when things don't go your way. And so we might find weaknesses and try to break some things down, and we might see that there's some selfishness. And so we might make some changes and have some conversations, and those are never easy. Like none of this has been easy. I wish I could say it was flowers and ponies every single time. It has never been flowers and ponies. One year we went undefeated, and I'm still in awe of that group. It was in 2016. We went 44-0. That was the year we finished second in the country. We were down 24-21. And one of my little DSs went back and served. And next thing you know, I think we ended up winning 27-25. And we in the set, it was a best of 3. And like we should have lost that match, but all we did was worry about 1 point. Just win 1 point. Just win 1 point. And so I think when we get to like state time, district finals, it's like, just win 1 match. Let's just be the first to 5. Let's win this set. Like, let's not get caught up on like looking too far ahead, like a staircase, or you're climbing a mountain and you keep looking at the top, you are going to trip and fall. Right. And then you're going to slide back down. So our goal is to like stay focused on the next step. A big thing last year was like standards over feelings. Have you heard that? Like, we're going to play to a standard, not how we feel, like not what makes us happy, but like, are we working hard? Are we being good teammates? Are we doing all those little things? And normally if we keep our focus on effort and attitude and consistency, the rest kind of takes care of itself. And we might lose some games. I think we lost 12 or 13 matches last year. We play a national schedule, and I don't regret one of them. I loved it. I loved losing because we saw our weaknesses. We saw where people were breaking down. We saw where the team was breaking down. We saw bad rotations. And then we get back in the gym and try to fix those things. And that's the fun part, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think are some of the challenges that high school athletes face today? And then how do you handle helping them through those challenges?
It's funny. So I literally just had a little conversation with I had a 7th and 8th grade camp last week and had about 85 girls. I also had a K-2 camp with about 80 girls. And then today I had 20 boys in the sand for a little beach camp. And the conversation that I have with those older kids and the younger kids, number one, is take time to meet some new people, right? Because I feel, especially girls, we stay in our little bubbles. And what I see in sports is Joshua Medcalf wrote a book called The Twin Thieves, but this isn't the first time I've heard this concept. But the twin thieves are fear of judgment and fear of failure. And when I watch girls play, I see them playing fear of messing up. Like, don't watch me yet. I'm not good. I'm the same way. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Don't watch yet. I'm not good yet. Like, I don't want to go to a group fitness class because they're going to see how to shape I am or how I can't bend my knee or whatever it might be. Like, I don't want people to see me weak. And so the other one is fear of judgment. right? So I go all out and I mess up. What's worse, the fact that I messed up or the fact that now everybody is like, oh, she's not very good, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like girls care more about this than boys. And I think it's one of the things like in our society in general that we need to find a way to empower girls to really be like, hey, you can do it. It's not bad to fail. Like if people are judging you, who cares? They're not, you don't need them in your life. You know, you need to stand on your morals and your values and like do the best that you can do and go out of your way to meet some new people. And, you know, and then the other thing that girls like to do is we like to bring each other down. Right. So
Sadly, yeah.
yeah, and it's weird. Like, why are we trying to bring each other down? It's you can even look at like the fitness industry and you look, and this is has nothing to do with female and male, but if you look at the fitness industry, this influencer is trying to take down this influencer and this, but like we're all doing the same thing. So why wouldn't you want everybody to like be better at it? So like in volleyball, a female coach, another female coach, there's really, why would I want to tear her down when there's not very many of us out there? Like I might not agree with everything she does, but I'm not going to throw her under the bus, right? I want to know that we want more female coaches and I want to empower those female coaches and I want to teach them and help them and do those things. And if they're good, great. If they ever beat me, great. Maybe not great, but you know what I mean? It's one of those things where I really think that we have to do a better job from a young age of letting girls know that it's okay to fail and be less judgmental, you know, because we're all fighting battles we don't know about, but we're all like, if we're trying, what's wrong with that? Like, it needs to be more of an effort base than a success base, like an outcome base. Like, I feel like girls are so worried about outcome and appearance that it's starting to like cause bigger issues. You know, you see more anxiety and things like that.
Yeah.
There's no need for any of that.
Yeah. I think lots of the social media, Instagram, judgmental kind of posts and comparisons.
Yeah, filters and everything else.
Yep.
My kids would give me so much crap because I run our Skutt Catholic volleyball social media. They're like, you never use filters. I'm like, yeah, because I like things to be real.
I
And
love
I
it.
don't care if you look sweaty and your cheeks are red. That means you just worked hard and that's okay. You
Yeah.
know, and I've just never been a filter person unless it's making me look like a goon, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm not gonna take time and try to make every picture perfect because I have other things I need to do. That's not important to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, they give me so much crap about it. I'm
Yeah.
like, stop it. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But it's a real thing. And I think as, you know, coaches and, you know, especially they're very influential, you know, that age group from literally kindergarten through high school, that I think we really have to do a good job of instilling confidence in them.
Yeah. Well, you always have, you have such a great drive and you have this, obviously championship mentality because you won so many championships and things. So what are the things you're doing with your players, either, physically, mentally, to keep them up and ready to be competing at that kind of level?
Um, you know, it's so summer is like our big, like realizing we can do hard things. So we're lifting heavy weights. We're in the sand, running, jumping, doing agilities. And I always try to compare it to like, all right, we're in the fourth set. It's 2020. Who can dig deep and win the set? Or it's set 5. It's tied 13-13. Do you want to dog it now or do you want to try to fight through it? You know, so summer is kind of our like learning that we can do hard things. And then in the season, we have a sports psych that we work with, Dr. Larry Widman. He's huge in the volleyball world, but he also does softball. He works with the local football team. He's out of Lincoln, but I believe he's moving to Omaha. But he is fantastic. And he goes through, you know, stools of performance and mindset and all those things that they need. But every meeting is more like, okay, I think we're having an issue with this. So then he kind of talks through it and then sees that they have any issues. And then they bring up potential concerns and he helps them work through it. But I mean, a lot of his stuff is based on controlling the controllables. Like we can complain that Coach Saunders is, you know, putting us in these drills we can't win, you know, or we can take a step and be like, hey, but we can control our effort and our attitude, you know, so let's work on those two things. And so he's big with finding solutions to their problems versus letting it become like a complaint session,
Mhm.
which I think is so easy to happen. Like something's not going your way, it's really easy to grab a group of people and complain about it, right? So we're very solution based in season. This year we have a big no complaining rule. No complaining about early morning workouts, no complaining about being sore, though they're all walking like they got off horses this week, started this week. But then even in season, like, yeah, we have every day we have a mental challenge drill. And it's something that I hope is really hard for them, but achievable. But something that's easy too. Like the only thing that could keep them from getting it is this. And so we want to make sure that our minds are in the right places and our bodies are in the right places. And we do a lot of prehab and bands and functional stuff and priming exercises to work our hips and our shoulders and, all those fun things that we need to do to make sure that we are healthy for a whole season. So yeah, it's a hodgepodge of everything we need that we hope nobody else does.
Yeah. And how do you stay? I know you read a ton. So what do you do to stay sharp? And what are some of the books that you've really given you good inspiration?
It's funny. I've tried to get off social media a little bit this year. So instead of sitting there and like scrolling through Instagram reels or on Twitter or on Facebook, I'll post stuff on the Skutt Catholic and then I put my phone away and I read instead. And I've been reading and I've been on a plane a lot with the Supernovas. So I've had a lot of opportunities to read, but I've been averaging like 10, 12 books a month. Awesome. I just finished my 4th book of June today before we got on this. And I try to get a little bit of something out of every one, but I also try not to read all like mental performance stuff because a lot of it's kind of the same message in different ways. Some books are a little bit different and they like frame it differently. So I try to mix in like, health nutrition, maybe something that's like about Catholicism, maybe something more like fiction. I have some stoicism. I really like Ryan Holiday and his stoicism stuff. Joshua Metcalf has a bunch of good stuff. John Gordon, but he hasn't had anything new. And then Alistair McCaw has been new to me, but I really like his stuff too. And then he does that Be Champion Minded on Instagram. Lots of really just good stuff for young kids. Like I feel like every once in a while I follow him on purpose from our volleyball account just so I can kind of post on our story some of his good like quotes and sayings and stuff like that because they're really easy, they're really simple, but I feel like people are always looking for like the big next fix and really just have to do like the little things right. So yeah, I read a lot. I also work out pretty daily. I have 2 dogs that keep me busy for the most part. And yeah, I like to sit outside and enjoy beautiful weather and not beautiful year round like California beautiful. It is pretty nice out there during the summer.
Yeah, we have a couple. We do have 2. June gloom, May gray, and June gloom. But yeah.
I think when I was out there in March, I felt like it was wind. It was so windy on the coast.
Yeah, this year we honestly have had more. Like people said, is this the new Seattle? Like we've had more rain and wind than we've had, I think, in all the time I've been out here. But
I think I was out there. So I was out there for spring break, and then I was out there with the Supernovas twice. And along the beach was just like gust winds. And then by 2:00, rain clouds came in. So if you weren't outside early, you were, SOL on that. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Back to your girls for a quick second. What would you what advice would you have for young girls out there who are who want to kind of maybe follow in your shoes, in your footsteps and want to be a college athlete? What are the things that you think? Because now, it's crazy. I know we both played club volleyball growing up, and but I just think the club scene wasn't to the extent it all is now for all the sports. So what advice do you have for young girls navigating kind of the competitive sports world?
It's hard because as a coach, my kids are better because they play volleyball, right? Like the more you do something, you're going to be better at it. Like if you want to be better at basketball, you need to shoot, right? You need to, play defense. You need to have some of that stuff. But I think it's becoming such a year-round thing that the multi-sport athlete is kind of becoming a lost entity, right? Like a lot of people don't do it. And it's because here's the biggest difference. And this is not a knock on clubs, But back when we played, the people who ran the clubs were high school coaches and they ran them in their gyms.
Mm-hmm.
So the overhead was much less, right? And they were
Yeah.
teachers, right? So they understood the body and, you know, the rest that it needs. And this a whole different scope and perspective being a teacher versus being a businessman who has a ton of people in a brand new facility that they have to pay for, right? So the only way you pay for the brand new facility is to get lots of bodies in and you keep them there as much as possible so you can charge more, which then, you know, now you're adding more time and more money. Back when we played, it was basketball season. I would go to the Millard North gym to play for River City, and it was always like at 8 o'clock at night. It'd be after basketball practice is over, or 7 o'clock at night, and we go practice, you know, for our 2 hours and we were done, and maybe we had another practice later that week. But now they have facilities. They're not fighting with other sports. They can have practices from 4 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night as much as they want, and the more slots they can fill, now they can pay for their facilities. Nothing wrong with that, right? Like it's simple. It's
Mm-hmm.
supply and demand, right? And people want to play. But I do feel like they play on parents and kids' emotions. You know, the only way you're going to get a scholarship is if you play club. Only way you're going to get a scholarship if you play here. Well, I'll be totally honest with you. I've seen lots of kids pay their way all the way through and they didn't get a scholarship. You know, they might have been on the top team for 2 or 3 years, but then they didn't get better after that. And then they didn't even play volleyball after that. So part of me thinks if you're good enough, you're going to be seen. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, we can teach you skill and we can make you fine tune you, but the top 10% are going to get recruited no matter what, right? And then the bottom 40% probably won't make it. So really where the club scene helps is that like other 50%, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they have 100% playing all the time. So I don't know the answer to it. There's part of me that really thinks the whole youth sport model on every realm needs to be probably exploded and redone with different intention.
Mm-hmm.
I've never understood why they have 8-year-olds playing 120 baseball games. Like I could play a whole baseball game and never touch a ball. But I could go to practice and I could get 50 fly balls, 50 ground balls. And so to me, I think that everybody wants to play. And there's a lot of good stuff about play because then it creates those random events that maybe you can't recreate in a controlled drill, right?
Yep.
So there's definitely that part of it. But at a young age, like probably up until, 14, 15, even my kids still, I feel like training is more important than playing to a certain extent. But it's very different, and I think it's because people have these giant facilities. The need is there, the demand is there. And so we're just trying to meet the needs of all these kids that want to play and play and play.
Yeah.
But it's making it into a bunch of kids only playing one sport. So then you have kids that are having more knee injuries, like the amount of MPFL tears that I hear about. I did not even know what an MPFL is, and I've taken anatomy physiology, biomechanics. But now all these kids are coming up with these tears, and it's from early age, one directional stuff, and nobody's really corrected form. And so they have, weaknesses, their knees go in, all these other things that weren't tended to. And then you have even more reps and jumping and all these other things happening. So in a dream world, my advice to any youngster is to stay involved in as many sports as possible for as long as possible, period. Like that's it. And that would be my ideal for any. But I don't know if that's the easiest thing to do anymore. But it's something that I think we should strive to do because I think in the long term, it's better for you. And then once you're sophomore, junior, senior in high school, then go down to one sport, when you really know this is what you want to do, this is what you love. But as a young athlete, just, be a kid, do lots of sports, get outside and get off your phone. Like that would be my 4 things, because kids aren't acclimated to this heat. It blows my mind how 20 minutes in the sun and they're dying. Like, and then we worry about, then we bring them into football season, let's say boys that come into football, and then we have all this cardiac arrest stuff. But if kids are outside playing all summer long, less likely some of those things happen. So get outside, put your phones down, play lots of sports, and have fun, be a kid.
I love it. I love that because I did want to get your thoughts because I thought that's something that I loved about growing up in Nebraska and kind of when we did, it's like, I got to play every sport too. And I was also got to be in ballet and point, which gave me a whole different development, which I thought like really helped my play in volleyball, having that body control that you learn as a dancer. So that's my kind of issue with sports right now too, is that sometimes I feel like they're over focused and there's a lot you can learn, take from the other sports into whichever one you want to go with. Like I learned things in track. I mean, I did track, went to the state track meet. Was it my favorite sport? No. Like I
Right.
would much rather go to basketball practice or volleyball practice than like run all the time, but I learned a lot going through track that I didn't learn in the other sports. So I do worry that, that sometimes they're missing out on body development or mental development that can be gained from not just being so focused on one sport.
Yeah, I just wish there was a way to like season it smaller so that they did have the ability to do it. But like I look at USA volleyball and when they start, and then their nationals isn't until July. And if you want to tell the clubs to wait until February to start, then the kids get 3 months rest, which would be awesome. And they'd be able to play basketball season, all those things. But again, they have overhead, right? Yeah. So it's just different than like if, and then there's rules like I can't coach more than 4 Skutt kids until after Memorial Day. And so it wouldn't make any sense for me to run a club at Skutt because none of my coaches could coach our kids. And so there's just lots of there. I don't know a right answer. And I 100% like my kids playing as much as they do is a blessing and a curse, right? Like we have some nagging injuries, but I have some really high level kids that are benefiting from that, right? So yeah, I 100% am not saying it needs to like end and it, like it's bad, but I feel like we can do better for kids in some way, shape, or form. I wish I knew the answer, but I don't. And maybe, maybe somebody does, and someday that'll come along. But I think it'd be better for kids if they weren't doing one thing all the time.
Yeah. All right. Well, good thoughts there.
Yeah.
All right, well, transitioning on, because I could sit here and talk to you all day long, and I know you've had a long week of camps and everything. So I want to talk about your newest venture. So color analyst for the Omaha Supernovas. I mean, how excited were you that actually Omaha got this professional volleyball team? And then when you got the call to have this position?
God, number one, I was so excited when I heard Omaha was going to have a Pro Volleyball Federation team, like fired up. I'm like, this is the perfect place for it. This is the volley state. Volleyball day in Nebraska might have been one of the greatest things to happen for girls sports. Next would have been, I think Caitlin Clark is probably the next best thing to happen for girls sports because people are now watching.
Yep.
And I don't always agree with how Caitlin Clark acts on the floor. I'm a big, like humble type play with humility type person. So I don't always like her behaviors, but she's a heck of a basketball player, and I can respect that.
Yep.
And she is now like the WNBA never had jets, private flights. Now that she's there, they do because she can't be in an airport, and Indiana can't be the only ones using a charter. So now everybody gets a charter. So they should all be thanking her for that, number one.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I found out that the PVF was coming to Nebraska, in Omaha in particular, I think I emailed them almost immediately. I'm like, and I don't even know who I sent it to. It was probably some random, info, whatever. But I'm like, hey, this is who I am. If you ever need anything, let me know. And then this is before they hired the president and the coach and all those things. And I had some conversations with the head coach prior about being like a consultant for the team early on. And then Diane Mendenhall, who's the president, who has Husker ties as well. She was the very first director of volleyball operations at Nebraska. But then she is now the president of the Supernovas. And I went and watched practices and all this stuff. And I would talk to her, and, we had coffee and hung out. Like, it was really cool. I felt like I was kind of in it, right? Even though I wasn't coaching or playing. I literally, but I got to go watch. It was awesome. I'm a geek that way. But anyway, she sent me a text. She goes, hey, would you be interested in doing color analyst for the Supernova radio broadcasts? And I was like, I've never done that before. Like, you sure you want me to do it? And she's like, well, I did it with John Baylor back in the day. And she goes, you're going to love it. Like, even after working all day, because obviously I'm teaching,
Yeah.
after working all day, I would go to the games and I just had the best time doing it. And so I sat here like on a Zoom, just like I am with you, with Jen Ray Wang and Jeff Ekstrom and Diane. And they were like, kind of talked me through it. And it was like, I'm like, well, what's compensation? They're like, well, we'll get you some gear. I'm like, okay. Like, okay, well, what can you do? And I'm like, well, I can do all the home games except for one because I had a previous commitment with my nephew. And they're like, okay, we'll take it. I'm like, well, when do you need to know by? So I can like, I had all these notes and I was gonna think through it. And they're like, well, it's 3:45 and the first match is in a week. So as soon as possible. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. So they sent the recommendation for me to do it to Derek Pearson at the Ticket in Lincoln. And he accepted it, started looking into who I was, following on social media, all that stuff. We connected a little bit. And oh my God, JJ, this was like the coolest experience. Like, coolest experience was being part of Volleyball Day in Nebraska. Like, an honorary coach, being on and an alumni, being a part of that was probably like number one experience of my like career life. Number two was this opportunity to go along with this team, which ended up being almost every single game. Like, we called the whole PVF semis and finals. So we called all three of those matches. I felt like we got better as the year went on. I got to meet these awesome two guys in Derek Pearson and Enrique Alvarez Cleary, who was our producer. And I got to see this whole different side. And it was so cool. And getting to know the players and the coaches and being able to watch practices but looking at it from an outside lens, it was cool experience.
Yeah. And of course, get another championship because that's what you do.
Yeah. We'll go into that part later, but yes, that was the winning of the whole thing. Like, after they were down 0-2 to San Diego in the semifinals, and a little light bulb turned on in them. They made a couple great defensive plays and the whole game shifted momentum. And then I was like, the third set was still kind of close, but towards the end of the match, I think Brooke Nunneveller made this amazing dig and we ended up winning the point. And all of a sudden there was this new energy, like in the arena, from the fans to the bench to the coaches, and you could just feel the shift. And then the fourth set, they absolutely rolled them. Like, it wasn't even close. And then the fifth set came around, it was a lot closer. But after them being down 0-2 and coming back and winning that match and then playing in the finals against who we thought was going to be Atlanta, but Atlanta lost in 5 to Grand Rapids. But everybody was waiting for that Atlanta Omaha match because Atlanta had beat us 3 out of 4 times and all these things. Anyway, we played Grand Rapids and I'm like, there's no stopping this team. Like, they were on the brink of defeat and they found a way to win. Like, it's a different mojo when that happens. And so even though there was a couple day break in between the games, Grand Rapids kind of ran to a juggernaut and the Nova swept them. And I got a confetti and a piece of the net, and maybe someday I'll get a shirt, but it was super cool, like interviewing some of the players and watching them celebrate, and us doing our post-game show and talking to Bird. And she was so much fun to work with the whole season long. Like, we talked every single game day, and I don't know, it was pretty sweet.
I listened to one of your interviews and you were talking about this new position for you. And I like that you said, I'm interested in seeing my growth from the first game to the last, because like you said, this was something new that you'd never done, a point where we talked about fear earlier. You could have gone in and been like, no, I've never done this before. I'm not ready to do this. But I like that you embrace the challenge of, hey, I'm going to start here and I can't wait to see where I end up.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because Doc obviously was like, I'm so proud of you going out of your comfort zone. And then Derek Pearson, I like went down to Lincoln and did like a radio show with him. And before it, he was like, we introduced ourselves the first time we met in person and we were talking. And he's like, well, find out if you know anything or not, and in my head, I'm like, oh God, like, that's right. Like, I might say something, sound like a total idiot, right? But he's like, we're going to find out if you know anything, about what you're doing. And that kind of stuck with me because I'm like, it's true, right? Like, I'm the one that's supposed to like be able to paint the picture, right? The cross court shot, the line shot, skill shot, the energy, all those kinds of things that are going on because the radio people can't see it. And so he got progressively better as the season went on. And I felt like I got better as the season went on, but there's a lot of times where I was like, God, I feel like I'm saying the same thing every time. So then as I would watch games on TV, I would start to listen to like things they would say or like listen to radio. And maybe someday like DP got all our games on Amazon Prime. So all of our pregame interviews, like our pregame show, which I know a ton of people listen to. We did an hour pregame show, then we called the match. And then we did anywhere from a 20 to 45-minute post-game show. And so it was a 5 hour.
lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. And I've never asked questions. I've just answered them because I've always been on the other side of the table. And so learning how to ask questions was really hard for me. I can ask my players questions, but asking like professional athletes, like I always wanted to like have a statement and then they fill in the picture of it, right? So I had to learn how to ask questions, and that was the hardest thing I learned. And I'm like, God, how does the press do this? But then I'm like, well, that's what they're trained to do. So
yeah,
but it was definitely different being on the media side, and I think we did get better. And I was definitely out of my comfort zone. But I told DP, I'm like, here's the deal, buddy. I've never done this before, but I hate sucking at things. I go, so you just teach me, help me, and I will do the best I can to make this as good as possible. I go, but I don't like to suck. So you got to help me and tell me when I'm not doing something well. So I thought we had a really good relationship, and I actually kind of miss him. I really enjoyed like our trips together and getting to know him. And, I was actually going to send him a text this week and be like, hey guys, I miss you.
yeah, aw, sweet.
Yeah,
Well, I
they're
love
good.
it. Just just what you said there talks about what you said about the same thing that young girls face. Look, it doesn't change any now that we're older. Like you still go through the same things as the fear, doing the unknown or of looking stupid, or And I think also with women in sports, I mean, I've read this about a lot of female broadcasters and stuff. They always felt like they didn't have the room to mess up that maybe a male did. That because there's more judgment about a woman doing that role. So, I think that's that pressure then that you put on yourself
There's for sure a gender bias in general, right? In coaching and sports broadcasting and all those things. But I really think there's a lot of women doing a lot of great things on both of those avenues that are opening doors for other women, to do it. And I don't know if we're going to go into this whole topic or not, but now that I'm a part of that, we're starting a group in Nebraska called Nebraska Women's Athletic Leadership Alliance. And it's literally for all women coaches, athletic directors, assistant coaches, assistant athletic directors, athletic trainers, strength and conditioning coaches, powerlifting coaches, and officials. So females in all those genres. And we are creating a group to support and help, number one, women get into it. So like increasing the number of women in coaching, but then also retaining them, right? And so that's our goal, is to recruit women to coach and be in those positions and then retain those women to coach. And I think women in leadership positions matter. And all the studies show, for some reason, when it comes to business, they're creating that split where women are moving up in the world. But for some reason, in the coaching side of it, it's still 80% men and 20% women. And so we're trying to break that barrier to kind of hopefully, obviously with more women playing sports, more girls in sports, hopefully then empowering them to hopefully then become coaches, and then, then maybe staying as coaches, for a long period of time, because, I think we've had women coaches and we've had male coaches, and both of them were very influential with me. But I think it's pretty cool. And I think it's important that if you want to be a female coach, and if you want to be a coach and you're a female, you need to see some female coaches, right? If you can see it, you can be it.
Yep.
And so hopefully, that's something that this group helps with. But it is definitely like a different realm again. I'm kind of out of my comfort zone again. But yeah,
that's great. What a wonderful thing that's been created. I hope you get our other teammate, Amy Gusso, on there.
I know right now we're focused on high school, but I would take a heartbeat. So, but she would be a good person to like bring in to speak. Like we have Rhonda Ravel's at the coaches clinic. We got a session at the coaches clinic in July. I've done, we've contacted with We Coach and the Tucker Center, all these places that are doing some really cool stuff for female coaches, and they're going to help us hopefully do the same. Not very many states have an organization dedicated for their female leaders. And I think that that's something that we in Nebraska, especially, like, it's weird because in the volleyball world, it's opposite. Like 80% of the volleyball coaches are females.
Mm.
But if you look at every coach, like across the whole gamut, if you take volleyball out of it, only 17% are females in Nebraska, which is
Wow.
crazy. So, and that was just from our census data, which was last year, but we're hoping that that continues to grow as we provide resources for them. So, just like young women need resources to flourish and grow, so do female coaches and leaders.
Yeah, that's great. Well, before we wrap up, I know, we talked about success looking like it just, happens overnight. And you've had such a successful career, as an athlete, now as a coach. What are some things that, ways that you keep yourself motivated, or that you've either gotten through tough times, or, how do you keep going with the strength and motivation that you have?
Well, success does not happen overnight at all. As I told you earlier today, I am 100% a product of my failures. I have, whether it was like being not a bust, I know that's a bad word to use, but like having these high aspirations going into college and then not really doing what I expected to do. And then my first high school coaching job, though I felt like we were successful, right? The kids played hard, we competed, but our record was 56 and 200 and something. Stark contrast from Skutt. Okay, totally opposite when I switched to a different school. And it wasn't it wasn't like I got all of a sudden I had I was a different coach. Well, no, I just had different kids, right? With different backgrounds and different resources and different opportunities, and but a common commitment level. So I feel like as long as I have kids that want to be successful, what drives me is never letting them down. I never want to let my team down. Like, I don't want to be that coach that oversleeps and misses something. I don't want to be the coach that isn't taking care of themselves so that they can't do their job to the best of their ability. So especially during season, I'm a lot more dialed in with like making sure I'm working out so that I don't get angry, and I'm, being consistent, and I'm putting forth the same amount of effort as they're putting forth.
Mm-hmm.
So really what drives me are my kids, 100%. Like they keep me on my toes, 100, like big time keeping my toes, but they also, I never want to let them down. So I always know that I want to read and grow. I have a very, very big growth mindset. And I'm always thinking I can do something better. So one of my favorite quotes is, mastery requires endless remastery. And so I know that last year's team was last year's team, and they required a certain something to be successful. This year's team is a new team. I need to figure out what that team's going to need to be successful. And so that's my job, and that's my drive, and that's how I try to figure it out. And then there is that little part of me that likes to prove people wrong, right? Like, you can't do it. There's no way. And I just like, we're going to try to prove you wrong on this. So there is that side of me that still exists. I think that's always kind of how I've been. Tell me I can't do something and I will find a way to get it done. So yeah, that's it. That's the kids inspire me every single day.
Well, I love it. And your kids are so lucky to have you. You just have such a big heart, and just, I love what you are doing to, nurture these girls and just have them have these wonderful experiences. And they're going to just look back and remember you and remember everything that you've done for them for years. So
I definitely hope so. I know for a fact that when you're in a really competitive program and things aren't always exactly the way you hope they would be, that sometimes you don't have the best experience, and I feel like, if I could keep that to a minimum and make sure every kid knows I at least care about them, right? And I even though I might have to bench them or take them out or whatever it might, or, tough love them or whatever it might be, I hope that when they look back at it, they grew from it, because like I said, I'm definitely a product of my failures. And I think that sometimes the harsh reality checks that you sometimes get with sports isn't always apparent immediately, but looking back, there's in reflection, you can usually find something good about it. So that's my hope. I hope my kids all know I love them and care about them, even the ones that maybe didn't play as much or, didn't get exactly the role they wanted, but I hope they know I still cared about them.
sure they will. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time today. You were so just inspirational to me. And I loved you as a teammate, love you now. Like, I just am so happy for you. And I appreciate you taking the time today to talk with me about all this and share your story.
I appreciate you having me on. I mean, how long have you been doing this podcast?
It's just probably been, I think we originally started things back in, oh gosh, like maybe like 7 years ago now or so. You know, I get lost track of time with the whole 3 to 4 years of that pandemic there that sucks sometimes some life out of it all, you know.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah.
I think it's awesome that you are doing this for so many people. Like, I think it's awesome that you have girls and women that listen, that hopefully can take, a couple grains of wisdom from all the different people you have on, but then also you have like crazy contagious energy too. So I think that probably rubs off a little bit.
Oh, thank you.
You're a good egg. It was
right.
like we never even left Nebraska.
What'd you say?
It was, I mean, we were not teammate, we were gone. I was gone. You've been gone for 25 years, or we haven't played together for 25 years, but I feel like it was yesterday.
I know. I love that too. It's like it just picked up right back out. There's no like awkward. I was like, yeah, it's like I just was in the, hanging out in the locker room before practice with you. Like,
It was
it's crazy.
pretty easy transition.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to make it back to Omaha. I will be there for the College World Series next week, but then, I got to make it to a game. So I'll let you know when I'm back in town.
I'll find you on Father's Day.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Yeah. Well, tell everybody where they can follow you at so everybody can watch you win state championship number 10 this year.
No, this is going to be state championship number 1 for this team. Remember?
So, I'm sorry. Yep. Number 1.
We're just trying to win 1. That's it.
My bad.
What I keep telling them, but we'll do lots of running intense. No.
Okay.
So all of our handles for volleyball are Skutt Catholic VB. And then all of my handles are Coach __ Saunders. So I'm pretty easy to find on both of those regards.
All right.
And they're both public. I don't think I have it. Facebook's probably my only private thing.
Okay.
And that's more of a networking. But everything else, give me a follow. I try to put up some good nuggets every once in a while.
Okay. And you always put your books there. I was like, oh, I need to read that one. So good inspiration there. Well, thank you. Thank you guys all for listening again. Follow us everywhere on TOMGIRL TV, on Instagram, Facebook, and then wherever you get your podcasts, we're there. We'll see you here again next time. Get out there. TOMGIRL.